Hook, every man in my line of work fears two things: fire on the rig and coming home to an empty house. But I found out there is something worse than an empty house. It is a house full of lies. I stood in the delivery room at Houston Methodist Hospital. My wife, Sarah, looked up at me with tears in her eyes. Her mother, Elena, stood guard by the bed like a pit bull. In Sarah's arms lay a newborn baby girl. The nurse extended a clipboard and a black pen toward me. She tapped the line at the bottom of the birth certificate. "Just one signature here, Dad, and it is official," she said. I looked at the paper. It was a contract. 18 years of financial slavery for a child that did not share a single drop of my blood. I took the pen. The room went silent. Sarah smiled, thinking she had won. Thinking the dumb oil worker would just pay the bill like he always did. Instead of signing, I let the pen drop. It hit the linoleum floor with a sharp click. I looked Sarah dead in the eye and said, "I know who the father is, and I know it is not me." Main story: my name is Juan. I am 38 years old, born and raised in Texas. For the last 15 years, I have worked as a senior engineer on offshore rigs in the Gulf of Mexico. It is not an easy life. You spend 14 days at a time surrounded by nothing but gray steel and black water. Shifts are 12 hours long. The machinery is loud enough to shake your bones, and the humidity sticks to your skin like oil. But you do it for the paycheck. You do it to build a fortress for your family. Or at least, that is what I told myself every time I boarded the helicopter to leave Houston. I thought I had built a solid life. A 4-bedroom house in the suburbs, paid off. A truck in the driveway. A wife who claimed she missed me every time I left. But distance does strange things to people. While I was out there keeping the lights on for half the state, Sarah was busy turning our home into a playground. She thought I was blind. She thought the long shifts made me stupid. She was wrong. The hospital room felt small. The air conditioner hummed, trying to scrub away the smell of iodine and sweat. Elena, my mother-in-law, broke the silence first. She stepped forward, her voice sharp. "Pick up the pen, Juan. Don't cause a scene. She just gave birth. She is exhausted." I didn't look at Elena. My eyes stayed locked on Sarah. She shifted in the hospital bed, pulling the pink blanket tighter around the infant. She wouldn't meet my gaze. She looked at the window, at the nurse, at the monitor. Anywhere but at me. "Juan, please," Sarah whispered. Her voice was raspy. "Not now? We can talk about whatever is bothering you at home." "There is no home," I said. My voice was calm. It scared them more than shouting would have. "I sold the house 3 days ago." Sarah's head snapped toward me. The color drained from her face faster than it had during labor. "What? You can't do that. That is our house." "It was my house," I corrected her. "Bought before the marriage. Title in my name. I liquidated it. The new owners take possession in 48 hours. You have 2 days to move your things out." Elena gasped. "You are insane. You are abandoning your wife and child. I will call a lawyer. I will strip you of every dime you have." I laughed. It was a dry, humorless sound. "You can try, Elena. But lawyers need money. And Sarah does not have access to my accounts anymore. I moved the funds to a trust this morning. You are looking at a man who is legally broke on paper." The nurse backed away slowly, clutching the clipboard to her chest, realizing this was no longer a routine procedure. She slipped out the door, leaving us alone in the cold fluorescent light. Sarah started to cry, real tears this time. Panicked tears. "Why are you doing this? Because I have friends? Because I work late? You are paranoid, Juan. This is your daughter. Look at her." She held the baby out, trying to use the child as a shield, trying to use an innocent life to anchor me to her lie. I reached into the inside pocket of my leather jacket. I didn't pull out a weapon, but the effect was the same. I pulled out a single, folded piece of paper. It was wrinkled from being in my pocket for the last 6 hours. I unfolded it and smoothed it out on the bedside table, right next to the unsigned birth certificate. "Read it," I said. Elena snatched the paper. Her eyes scanned the medical letterhead. Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. She looked from the paper to me, then down at her daughter with a mix of horror and realization. "What is it?" Sarah asked, her voice trembling. "What is that?" "It is a medical report from the Houston Urology Center," I said, stepping closer to the bed. "Dated 2 years ago. October, 2023. I leaned in, resting my hands on the bed rail. "I had a vasectomy, Sarah. I did it because I wanted to surprise you. You said you were worried about your health, that another pregnancy would be dangerous. So I took care of it. I was going to tell you on our anniversary." The silence that followed was heavy. It pressed down on the room like a physical weight. The monitor beeped steadily, marking the seconds of their destruction. The baby let out a soft whimper, but Sarah was frozen. The math was simple. If I was sterile for 2 years, the child in her arms was a mathematical impossibility. Unless there was someone else. I didn't say anything when you told me you were pregnant. I continued, my voice dropping to a low rumble. I didn't say anything when you painted the nursery. I waited. I waited for this exact moment. Because I wanted you to look me in the eye and try to make me sign that paper. Sarah's face crumpled. The denial died in her throat. She knew there was no talking her way out of a medical fact. She turned to her mother, looking for a lifeline. But Elena had backed away, leaning against the wall, the medical report shaking in her hand. Who is he? I asked. I didn't ask if she cheated. I skipped straight to the identity. It was a mistake, Sarah sobbed. He didn't mean anything. I was lonely, Juan. You were always gone. Lonely? I repeated. Lonely is sitting on a rig 300 miles from shore wondering what your wife is doing. Lonely is not sleeping with your boss. Her eyes widened. She hadn't realized I knew the name. Diego, I said. Diego Martinez. Your regional manager. The man who sent you flowers when I was offshore. The man who approved your business trips to Austin. She didn't deny it. She couldn't. The accuracy of the name shattered whatever defense she had left. I am leaving now, I said, straightening up. I buttoned my jacket. The rent on the apartment you and your mother are going to need is expensive. I suggest you ask Diego to pay for it. Although, from what I hear, his wife controls the checkbook. I turned my back on them. Sarah screamed my name, a desperate, broken sound that bounced off the tiled walls. Elena started shouting threats about court, about alimony, about reputation. I walked through the automatic doors and didn't look back. I walked down the long, sterile hallway, past the nurse's station, past the happy families celebrating new life. I stepped out into the humid Houston night. The air was thick and heavy, but for the first time in 6 months, I could breathe. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I pulled it out. A text message from a number I didn't have saved, but I knew who it was. It was Thomas, a mechanic from the rig who lived on the north side of town. The text was short. I found another one. We are meeting at the bar on 5th Street. You are not the only one Diego stole from. I got into my truck and turned the key. The engine roared to life. This wasn't just a divorce anymore. This was a war. And I had recruits. The bar was located on the edge of the industrial district. It was not the kind of place where you went to celebrate. It was where you went to bury things. I pushed open the heavy wooden door. The air inside was cool and smelled of old cedar. I spotted Thomas in a booth at the back. He was not alone. 2 other men sat with him. They did not look like drinking buddies. They looked like a jury. Thomas waved me over. I sat down. The wood of the booth was hard against my back. Thomas pointed to the man on his left. This is Carlos. He is a patrol officer with the Houston Police Department. He pointed to the man on his right. And this is Miguel. He owns a plumbing business servicing commercial buildings. Carlos slid a manila folder across the sticky table. He didn't say hello. He just tapped the folder with a thick finger. We have a problem, Juan. But we also have a solution. I looked at the 3 of them. Diego Martinez? I asked. Miguel took a long pull from his beer. He looked tired. His hands were stained with grease that soap couldn't reach. My wife, Linda. She was his executive assistant for 6 months. I was working a contract in Dallas. Came home a day early. Found his car in my driveway. It is a pattern, Carlos said. His voice was precise, like he was reading a police report. Diego targets us. Men who work with their hands. Men who work long hours. Men who are away. He calls us absentee landlords to the women. He convinces them they are neglected. He plays the sensitive listener while we are out breaking our backs. I felt the anger rise in my chest, hot and sharp. So what do? We can't touch him. He has lawyers. He has money. He had money. I corrected myself, remembering the look on Sarah's face. I cut Sarah off today. She is trying to buy diapers with a card that doesn't work right now. Carlos smiled. It was a cold, wolfish smile. That is good, Juan. But personal bankruptcy is just the start. Open the folder. I flipped the cover open. Inside were copies of bank statements, credit card receipts, and travel logs. I did some digging, Carlos said. Unofficially, Diego is not just sleeping with our wives. He is buying them. I looked at a highlighted line. The Four Seasons, Austin. $1,200. Another line. Tiffany and Company. $3,000. That is my wife's bracelet, Miguel muttered. She told me she bought it with her bonus. Look at the card number, Carlos said. I scanned the digits. It was a corporate American Express. He is not spending his own money, Carlos explained. He is charging everything to the company. Expenses. Client dinners. Team building. He is embezzling funds from the oil firm to run a harem. This was the twist. Adultery is not a crime in the eyes of the law, not really. But embezzlement? That is a felony. That is prison time. He is sloppy, Thomas said. He thinks he is untouchable because his wife is the CEO. I looked up. His wife. Isabel Martinez, Carlos said. She owns the company. Her father built it. Diego married into the empire. He is the regional manager only because she put him there. If she finds out he is using her company's money to sleep with her employees, he is finished. Not just fired. Destroyed. I closed the folder. The plan formed in my mind instantly. It was simple. It was brutal. And it was perfect. We don't confront him, I said. If we confront him, he spins it. He lies. He covers his tracks. Exactly, Carlos nodded. We go straight to the top. We go to Isabel. But we need more than paper, I said. Paper can be forged. We need a confession. Or something close to it. Miguel leaned forward. Next Friday. The company gala. It is their biggest event of the year. All the executives will be there. Isabel will be making the keynote speech. Diego will be receiving the Manager of the Year award. I looked at Thomas. Is Sarah going? She thinks she is, Thomas said. She texted my wife, bragging about the dress she bought. She thinks she is still part of the inner circle. She thinks Diego will protect her. I remembered the look on Sarah's face in the hospital. The entitlement. The belief that consequences were for other people. I have a plan, I said. Carlos, can you get security clearance for the gala? I am working the detail, Carlos said. I can get you in the back door. Good, I said. Miguel, I need you to get the original receipts. Not copies. Can you access Linda's cloud account? Already done, Miguel said. I have emails. Reservations. Everything. Then we are set, I said. We don't just hand over the folder. We make a presentation. My phone buzzed again. It was a notification from my bank. Attempted transaction. Target. $150. Declined. Sarah was trying to buy basics. The reality was setting in. But she had not hit rock bottom yet. Rock bottom was waiting for her at the gala. One more thing, I said to the group. When this blows up, it is going to take our wives down too. They were complicit. They accepted the gifts. They knew it was company money. Miguel looked at his beer bottle. Linda chose him. She chose the bracelet. She can pay the price. Thomas nodded. Agreed. Scorched earth. We clinked our bottles together. No cheers. Just a dull thud of glass on glass. The pact was made. We weren't just four angry husbands anymore. We were a demolition crew. And we were scheduled to bring the whole building down in exactly 7 days. Friday night arrived with the weight of a judgment day. We did not take the limousine entrance. While the executives and their mistresses walked the red carpet, Carlos opened the service door near the loading dock. The kitchen staff ignored us as we walked through the steam and noise. 3 men in dark suits moving against the current of waiters carrying trays of champagne. We stepped out from behind the heavy velvet curtains and into the shadows of the ballroom. The room was vast, filled with 500 people. At the front, bathed in a spotlight, stood Diego Martinez. He held a crystal trophy above his head. The crowd applauded. He looked invincible. I scanned the room for Sarah. I found her standing near the VIP section, wearing a silver dress she definitely could not afford. She was smiling at Diego, clapping harder than anyone else. She looked desperate, like a gambler betting her last chip on a losing horse. She thought this was her new life. She thought she had traded an engineer for an executive. Target acquired, Thomas whispered. He pointed to the table right in front of the stage. Isabel Martinez sat there. She was not clapping. She was reviewing notes for her closing speech. She looked focused, sharp, a woman who ran a billion-dollar empire and had zero patience for failure. Now, I said, we moved. We didn't run. We walked with the confidence of men who owned the building. Security started to intercept us, but Carlos stepped out from his post at the edge of the stage. He flashed his badge and shook his head. The guard stepped back. The path to Isabel was clear. I reached her table just as the applause died down. Diego lowered the microphone to speak. Mrs. Martinez, I said. She looked up, annoyed at the interruption. I am about to speak. Who are you? I placed the heavy binder on the white tablecloth. It landed with a thud that rattled the silverware. I am the man who paid for your husband's hotel rooms, I said. Or rather, you are. Isabel frowned. She looked at the binder, then at me. Her instincts kicked in. She opened the cover. On stage, Diego began his victory lap. Success is not just about numbers, he said, his voice smooth as silk. It is about integrity. It is about family. Isabel froze. Her eyes scanned the first page. Then the second. Miguel had done his job. The spreadsheet highlighted every unauthorized transaction in red. Jewelry stores, five-star resorts, lingerie boutiques, and next to each charge, a name. Sarah, Linda, Jessica. Isabel did not scream. She did not cry. She closed the binder with a snap. She stood up. Her chair scraped loudly against the floor. Diego stopped talking. The room went quiet. He smiled nervously. And here is my better half, our CEO, coming to join me. Isabel walked up the stairs to the stage. She did not look at him. She walked past him to the podium. She took the microphone from the stand. Diego speaks about integrity, Isabel said. Her voice was calm, amplified through the massive speakers. He speaks about cost. She signaled the AV technician in the booth. Put the laptop on the main screen, please. The giant screen behind Diego flickered. The corporate logo vanished. In its place appeared the bank statements. This is the corporate account, Isabel narrated, pointing at the screen. October 12th. The Ritz-Carlton. 2 nights. $1,400. Guest name, Sarah Miller. A gasp rippled through the crowd. I saw Sarah freeze. Her hand went to her mouth. People turned to look at her. The spotlight felt like it shifted from the stage to her shame. November 4th. Isabel continued, relentless. Cartier. For $1,000. Recipient, Linda Rodriguez. Diego lunged for the microphone. Isabel, stop. This is a mistake. We can discuss this in private. Isabel sidestepped him. Security, she said flatly. Carlos was already moving. He and 2 other uniformed officers walked onto the stage. They didn't gently escort Diego. Carlos spun him around and slammed him against the podium. The feedback from the microphone screeched, a high-pitched wail that matched the panic in Diego's eyes. Diego Martinez, Carlos announced, his voice booming. You are under arrest for grand larceny and corporate embezzlement. The handcuffs clicked. The sound was crisp, audible even over the murmurs of the crowd. Isabel looked down at her husband. You are fired, she said, and my lawyers will be in contact with your lawyers, if you can afford any. They dragged him off stage. He kicked and shouted, pleading, blaming everyone but himself. As they hauled him past the VIP section, he locked eyes with Sarah. Tell them. Diego screamed at her. Tell them it was your idea. You made me do it. Sarah recoiled as if he had slapped her. The man she destroyed her marriage for was now trying to use her as a scapegoat to save his own skin. The illusion shattered instantly. She wasn't his love. She was just his accomplice. I stood by the table, watching the wreckage. Isabel looked at me. She didn't say thank you. She gave a single, curt nod. A transaction completed. I turned to leave. Sarah was standing in the aisle, blocking my path. Mascara ran down her cheeks. The silver dress looked cheap under the harsh house lights. Juan, she choked out. I didn't know. He told me he loved me. He told me we were going to be a family. I didn't stop walking. I stepped around her like she was a piece of furniture. You don't have a family, Sarah. You have a court date. I pushed through the double doors and out into the cool night air. Thomas and Miguel were waiting. We didn't high-five. We didn't celebrate. We just stood there, watching the police lights flash against the building, knowing the war was won, but the casualties were permanent. The interrogation of Diego Martinez was not a battle of wits. It was a collapse. The man who had strutted across the gala stage like a king lasted exactly 45 minutes in a concrete room without windows. We did not need to guess what he said. Carlos told us everything. When the district attorney put the embezzlement evidence on the table, Diego did not try to protect the women he claimed to love. He threw them to the wolves to save his own skin. They pressured me. Diego had sobbed, pointing at the photos of Sarah, Linda, and the others. They threatened to tell my wife if I didn't buy them things. I was a victim of extortion. It was a lie, but it was a dangerous one. It gave the police a reason to look at the wives not just as mistresses, but as accomplices. 3 days after the arrest, the process servers arrived. They did not come with flowers. They came with civil lawsuits filed by Isabel Martinez's legal team. The charge was unjust enrichment and receipt of stolen property. Isabel was not just firing her husband. She was clawing back every single cent he had spent. I was sitting in my lawyer's office when I heard the news. My attorney, a sharp man named Davis, slid a document across his mahogany desk. You are in the clear, Juan, Davis said. Because you moved your assets before the arrest, and because you filed for divorce immediately, the court views your finances as separate. But your wife? She is in trouble. I picked up the file. Sarah was being sued for $56,000. That was the total sum of hotels, flights, dinners, and gifts Diego had lavished on her over 6 months. Isabel wanted it all back. She doesn't have $56,000, I said flatly. Then they will garnish her wages, Davis replied. They will put a lien on any future assets. She will be paying for those nights at the Ritz-Carlton for the next 10 years. I signed the final divorce papers. The pen scratched loudly in the quiet office. It was the signature I had refused to give at the hospital, but this one didn't bind me to a lie. It set me free. I drove past the house one last time. I don't know why. Maybe I needed to see the end of the movie. A moving truck was parked in the driveway, but it wasn't a professional service. It was a beat-up rental van. Sarah and Elena were hauling boxes out to the curb. The lawn, once the envy of the neighborhood, was overgrown. The for sale sign I had planted days ago had a sold sticker slapped across it. The new owners were aggressive. They wanted possession immediately. I idled the truck across the street. Sarah looked different. The arrogance from the hospital room was gone. She looked thin, pale, and exhausted. She was carrying a box of baby clothes. The infant was screaming in a carrier on the porch. Elena was shouting at her, blaming her for the mess, as if she hadn't been encouraging the affair the whole time. Sarah looked up. She saw my truck. For a second, I thought she might come over. I thought she might scream or beg, but she just stared. Her shoulders slumped. She knew there was no bridge left to cross. I was a stranger to her now, a stranger who had outsmarted her. I put the truck in gear and drove away. I didn't feel joy. I didn't feel sadness. I felt the cold, hard satisfaction of a ledger being balanced. That night, my phone rang. It was a number I didn't recognize. I answered. Juan. It was Linda, Miguel's wife. Her voice was shaking. Please, she said. You have to talk to Miguel. He kicked me out. He changed the locks. I have nowhere to go. Diego lied to us. I know he did, I said. We are going to jail, Juan, she cried. The police are talking about conspiracy charges because of what Diego said. You have to help us. You started this. I finished it. I corrected her. You started it when you got into his car. We were foolish, she pleaded. But we don't deserve this. You spent $3,000 on a bracelet with stolen money, Linda, I said. Miguel worked double shifts to pay for your house while you were spending corporate funds. You aren't a victim. You are a thief who got caught. I hung up. I blocked the number. The reality was hitting them all at once. The fantasy life Diego had promised them was actually a felony. The luxury they had chased was debt, and the husbands they had disrespected were the only ones standing on solid ground. I looked at the flight itinerary on my laptop. My leave was over. The helicopter was scheduled to take me back to the rig in 12 hours. Usually, the thought of leaving home made me heavy with dread. I hated missing the barbecues, the weekends, the illusion of a happy life. But tonight, the screen looked like a ticket to paradise. 2 weeks of hard labor. 2 weeks of steel and ocean. 2 weeks of silence. I packed my duffel bag, work boots, flame-resistant coveralls, safety glasses, the tools of my trade. I left the wedding ring on the nightstand of my empty apartment. I didn't need to throw it in the ocean. That was too dramatic. I just left it there, a piece of metal that no longer had a purpose. I was not John Miller, the husband. I was Juan, the engineer, and I had a job to do. It has been 6 months since the night at the gala. The dust has finally settled, and the landscape of my life looks completely different. I am no longer the man who sleeps in an empty house in the suburbs, wondering where his wife is. I am standing on the porch of a cabin on 50 acres of land in the Texas Hill Country. The air here smells of cedar and rain, not smog and deception. The legal battles are over. Diego Martinez did not go down fighting. When the federal prosecutors threatened him with 20 years for wire fraud and embezzlement, he folded. He took a plea deal. He is currently serving a 60-month sentence in a low-security federal facility. Isabel Martinez stripped him of everything before he went inside. His assets were frozen, his car repossessed, and his reputation incinerated. He went from a regional manager to an inmate number in the span of a season. As for Sarah, reality hit her harder than any lawsuit. The paternity test finally came back, confirming what I already knew. The child belongs to Diego. But a father in prison cannot pay child support, and a father who is bankrupt has no estate to claim. Sarah is currently living in a one-bedroom apartment with her mother, Elena. I heard from a mutual friend that she is working double shifts at a diner off the interstate to pay for diapers and legal fees. She sent me a letter last week. No return address, just a handwritten note begging for forgiveness, claiming she was brainwashed, asking for a second chance. I didn't burn it. I didn't tear it up. I just put it in the trash can with the rest of the junk mail. Anger is a connection, and I don't have any connection left to give her. Indifference is the only true freedom. With the money I saved from selling the suburban house and the overtime pay from the rig, I bought this land. It is raw, rugged, and honest. Just like the life I am building. I am not rushing into anything. I am clearing brush, fixing fences, and learning to enjoy the silence. But I am not entirely alone. 3 months ago, I was at the feed store in town, loading sacks of concrete into my truck. A woman in a pair of work boots and jeans backed her truck into the spot next to mine. Her name is Sophia. She runs a landscaping business. She didn't ask me what I did for a living or how much money I made. She asked me if I needed a hand with the tailgate. We started talking, not about status or vacations or the things Sarah used to care about. We talked about work. We talked about the difference between building something to look good and building something to last. Sophia has calluses on her hands. She knows the value of $1 because she earns it. She doesn't spend someone else's. Last night, we sat on my porch watching the sun go down over the ridge. We drank coffee from tin mugs. There was no pressure, no hidden agendas, just two adults enjoying the peace they had earned. You seem different than most guys around here, Sophia said, looking out at the horizon. You don't talk much about the past. The past is a lesson, I told her. You take the grade, and you move on. You don't carry the textbook around forever. She smiled. It was a genuine smile, one that reached her eyes. It wasn't practiced in a mirror. I realized then that the betrayal didn't break me. It forged me. I thought I had lost everything in that hospital room. But the truth is, I lost nothing that was real. I lost a lie. I lost a drain on my resources. I lost a parasite. In return, I gained my freedom, my dignity, and a future that belongs 100% to me. I still go out to the rig. I still work the long shifts. But now, when the helicopter lifts off the deck and turns toward the coast, I am not dreading the return. I am looking forward to it. I have a home that I built with my own hands. I have a bank account that no one can drain. And I have the peace of mind that comes from knowing exactly who I am. They say the best revenge is living well. I disagree. The best revenge is not caring enough to seek it. Diego is in a cell thinking about me. Sarah is in a cramped apartment thinking about me. I am out here, under the open Texas sky, and I haven't thought about them in days. To any man listening who feels the ground cracking beneath his feet, who suspects the person closest to him is wearing a mask, trust your gut. Check the math. And never be afraid to walk away from a table where respect is no longer being served. You are the architect of your own life. Don't let anyone else hold the pen. My name is Juan. I am 39 years old. And for the first time in my life, I am truly free.